First contact. The fluorescent lights of orbital station Epsilon flickered, casting an eerie glow over Commander Sarah Chen's face as she peered out the observation deck's reinforced window. The vast expanse of space stretched before her, a canvas of infinite possibilities punctuated by the twinkling of distant stars. 20 years of service in the United Earth Space Force had hardened her, but nothing could have prepared her for what was about to unfold. "Commander," a voice crackled through her comm unit, "we're picking up an anomaly on long-range scanners. You might want to see this." Sarah's brow furrowed as she made her way to the control room, her footsteps echoing through the station's metal corridors. As she entered, the room buzzed with nervous energy. Technicians and officers huddled around screens displaying a myriad of data. "Report," she barked, her eyes scanning the main view screen. Lieutenant Rodriguez, a young officer with a reputation for being unflappable, looked up from his console with wide eyes. "Ma'am, it's a ship, but like nothing we've ever seen before, and it's heading straight for us." Sarah leaned in, studying the grainy image on the screen. The vessel was unlike any human craft she'd encountered in her years of service. Its sleek, organic lines seemed to defy the laws of physics, shimmering with an otherworldly iridescence. "First contact," she breathed, a mixture of excitement and apprehension coursing through her veins. "Alert Earth Command. Initiate first contact protocols." The next few hours were a blur of activity as the station prepared for the arrival of their unexpected visitors. Sarah stood at the airlock, flanked by a security detail, her heart pounding as the docking procedure completed with a series of metallic clanks and hisses. The airlock doors slid open, revealing a sight that would be etched into human history forever. 3 beings stepped forward, their bodies tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shimmer like polished opal. Their eyes, large and multifaceted, reflected the station's lights in a kaleidoscope of colors. Sarah took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I am Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Force. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to Orbital Station Epsilon." The tallest of the aliens inclined its head in what Sarah hoped was a gesture of respect. When it spoke, the words seemed to form directly in her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. "Greetings, Commander Chen of Earth. We are this Cathari. We come seeking your assistance in a matter of great urgency." Sarah blinked, momentarily thrown by the alien's telepathic communication. She quickly regained her composure, gesturing towards the conference room. "Of course, please follow me. We can discuss your needs in a more comfortable setting." As they walked, Sarah couldn't help but notice the way the aliens moved, their gait fluid and graceful, almost as if they were gliding rather than walking. The station's human crew members stopped and stared, a mix of awe and trepidation on their faces. Once seated in the conference room, the lead Cathari, who introduced itself as Thalthor, began to explain their situation. "Our homeworld faces a crisis. A stellar anomaly threatens to destabilize our sun, potentially rendering our entire system uninhabitable. Our scientists have worked tirelessly, but we lack a crucial element to power our planetary defense system." Sarah leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. "What element do you need?" Sulphur's multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer with urgency. "We require a substance you call uranium. Our scans indicate that your planet possesses significant quantities of this element." The room fell silent as the implications of the request sank in. Uranium, while no longer used for weapons on Earth, was still a tightly controlled substance due to its potential for both energy production and destruction. Lieutenant Rodriguez, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "With all due respect, how do we know we can trust you with such a dangerous material?" Sulphur's skin rippled, a reaction Sarah interpreted as surprise or possibly offense. "Trust. We have traveled across the vastness of space, revealing ourselves to your kind, in the hope of saving our world. Is that not proof enough of our intentions?" Sarah held up a hand, sensing the tension in the room. "What my lieutenant means is that uranium is a powerful and potentially dangerous substance. We would need assurances about its intended use and handling. The Scathari exchanged looks, their skin shifting through a range of colors. Finally, Zalfo turned back to Sarah. "We understand your caution, Commander. Perhaps a cultural exchange would ease your concerns. We would be willing to share some of our technological knowledge in return for your assistance." As Sarah stood to escort the Scathari back to their ship, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came urgently over the comm system. "Commander, we've got multiple unidentified vessels dropping out of FTL nearby. They're not responding to hails and are on an intercept course." Sarah's eyes met Sulphur's, seeing her own shock mirrored in the alien's multifaceted gaze. "Are these friends of yours?" she asked sharply. Sulphur's skin paled to an almost translucent white. "No, Commander. I fear they may be the Kalorth, a rival species that has long sought to prevent us from advancing our technology. They must have followed us here." As the station shuddered from the first impacts of enemy fire, Sarah realized that her day had just become infinitely more complicated. The fate of not just one alien world, but potentially Earth itself, now rested in her hands. "Battle stations," she ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. "And you," she turned to Xalthor, "I hope you're ready to prove your peaceful intentions. We're going to need to work together if we want to survive this." As humans and aliens rushed to defend the station, Sarah couldn't help but think that this was hardly the first contact scenario she had imagined. But as the adrenaline surged through her veins, she knew one thing for certain: humanity was about to show the galaxy what they were made of. The unlikely alliance. The space around Orbital Station Epsilon erupted into chaos as the Kalorth ships opened fire. Streaks of energy lanced through the void, some finding their mark on the station's outer hull. Commander Sarah Chen gripped the edge of the command console, her knuckles white as the station shuddered under the assault. Shields at 68% and dropping. Lieutenant Rodriguez shouted over the blaring alarms. "Our weapons are having minimal effect on their hulls." Sarah's mind raced. The station's defenses were designed to handle asteroids and the occasional pirate vessel, not an advanced alien assault force. She turned to Xalthor, the Scathari leader who stood beside her, its opalescent skin now a pale, sickly hue. "You said these Kalorth are your rivals," Sarah said, her voice tight with urgency. "What can you tell us about their weaknesses?" Xalthor's multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer with internal light. "Their shields operate on a fluctuating frequency. If you can match your weapons to the inverse of that frequency, you may be able to penetrate their defenses." Sarah nodded sharply. "Rodriguez, work with this Scathari. Recalibrate our phasers based on their information." As Rodriguez and one of the Scathari hurried to modify the station's weapons, Sarah turned her attention back to the battle. The Kalorth ships moved with an eerie grace, their formations fluid and unpredictable. It was like nothing she had ever encountered in her years of training simulations. "Commander," Balfour's telepathic voice resonated in her mind, "our ship is equipped with more advanced defensive capabilities. If you'll allow us, we can extend our shields to encompass your station." Sarah hesitated for a split second. Allowing an alien species access to their systems went against every protocol in the book. But as another barrage rocked the station, she knew they had little choice. "Do it," she ordered. The Scathari ship, still docked to the station, hummed to life. A shimmering, iridescent field expanded outward, enveloping Epsilon in its protective embrace. The next volley from the Kalorth dissipated harmlessly against the new shields. Shields holding at 95%, Rodriguez reported, a note of awe in his voice. "Ma'am, the weapon's recalibration is complete." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. "Then let's show these Kalorth what happens when they pick a fight in the wrong solar system. All batteries, open fire." The station's phasers lashed out, their energy beams pulsing with a new, alien-enhanced frequency. This time, they sliced through the Kalorth shields like they weren't even there. two enemy ships erupted into spectacular explosions, their debris scattering across the starfield. The remaining Forloth vessels quickly changed tactics, breaking formation and adopting evasive maneuvers. Their return fire became sporadic and less accurate as they struggled to regroup. "They're retreating," Rodriguez exclaimed as the enemy ships began to pull away. But Sarah's eyes narrowed. Something didn't feel right. "Hold your fire," she ordered, studying the tactical display intently. Zolfo moved closer, its body language conveying curiosity. "Commander, they are fleeing. Is this not a victory?" Sarah shook her head. "In my experience, an enemy this advanced doesn't just give up after losing a couple of ships. This feels like..." Her words were cut off as a massive energy surge appeared on the sensors. A swirling vortex of light erupted in space, dwarfing both the station and the retreating Forloth ships. By the cosmic void, Zolfo breathed, its mental voice filled with dread. "It's a Forloth battlecruiser." The ship that emerged from the vortex was enormous, easily 10 times the size of orbital station Epsilon. Its hull was a dark, light-absorbing material that seemed to bend the very starlight around it. As it approached, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. This was a vessel designed for one purpose: total annihilation. "Orders, Commander?" Rodriguez asked, his voice steady despite the fear evident in his eyes. Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself. This was what her years of training had prepared her for. "We stand our ground. Epsilon is the first line of defense for Earth. If we fall, there's nothing stopping them from attacking our homeworld." She turned to Zolfo. "I need everything you've got. Weapons, shields, any tricks up your sleeve that you haven't shown us yet. This is no longer just about your world or ours. If we don't stop them here, both our species could be facing extinction." Zolfo's skin rippled with an array of colors, a gesture Sarah was beginning to recognize as determination. "We stand with you, Commander Chen. The Scathari do not abandon their allies in times of need." As the massive Forloth battlecruiser bore down on them, Sarah felt an odd sense of calm settle over her. Humans and Scathari, two species that hadn't known of each other's existence mere hours ago, now stood united against a common threat. "All hands, battle stations," Sarah commanded, her voice ringing with authority. "Let's show these Forloth what happens when they threaten our worlds. Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of all sentient beings to exist free from tyranny." The crew, both human and Scathari, moved with renewed purpose. As the first salvo from the battlecruiser lit up space around them, Sarah allowed herself a small, fierce smile. The Forloth might have the bigger ship, but they were about to learn a crucial lesson about humanity. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. The battle that would decide the fate of two worlds had begun, and Commander Sarah Chen was determined to make it one for the history books. As the Forloth battlecruiser unleashed its full arsenal, the combined human-Scathari defense seemed pitifully small in comparison. Energy beams capable of shattering moons lanced out, only to be met by the shimmering iridescence of the Scathari shields. Shields holding at 82%, Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across the console. "But each hit is draining them significantly. We can't take much more of this." Sarah nodded grimly. "We need to find a weak point. Zolfo, what can you tell us about Forloth ship design?" The Scathari leader's multifaceted eyes seemed to pulse with inner light as it considered. "Their power core. It's likely located in the aft section, heavily shielded. If we could somehow breach those shields, a concentrated attack might destabilize their entire ship." "Easier said than done," Sarah muttered, watching as another barrage from the battlecruiser rocked the station. Then an idea struck her. "Wait a minute. Rodriguez, what if we reverse the polarity on our shield emitters? Could we create a focused beam of our own shield energy?" Rodriguez's eyes widened as he caught on to her plan. "It's possible, but, Commander, that would leave us completely exposed. One hit from that battlecruiser and was space dust." Sarah's jaw set in determination. Sometimes you have to roll the hard 6. Do it. As Rodriguez and the Sci-Fi engineers worked feverishly to modify the shield emitters, Sarah opened a channel to the entire station. All hands, this is Commander Chen. We're about to attempt a desperate gambit. If it fails, it's been an honor serving with each and every one of you. But when it succeeds, I want you to remember this moment. Remember how humanity and this Sci-Fi stood together against impossible odds. No matter what happens next, we've already proven that there's more that unites us than divides us across the vastness of space. She cut the transmission, turning to Xalthor. I hope your ship is ready for some fancy flying. We'll need a distraction to get close enough for this to work. Xalthor's skin rippled with what Sarah now recognized as excitement. Commander, you're about to see why the Sci-Fi are renowned across 12 star systems for our piloting skills. The next few minutes were a blur of action. The Sci-Fi ship detached from the station, darting and weaving through the battlecruiser's barrage, like a minnow evading a whale. Its maneuvers were unlike anything Sarah had ever seen, seeming to defy the laws of physics themselves. Shield modifications complete, Rodriguez announced. Ready on your command. Sarah took a deep breath. This was it. Everything rode on the next few seconds. Take us in, full impulse. Aim for their aft section. On my mark, fire. The station's shields collapsed, leaving them terrifyingly vulnerable. But in that same instant, all that energy coalesced into a brilliant beam of pure force. It lanced out, punching through the battlecruiser's weakened aft shields and striking true. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a chain reaction began. Explosions rippled across the massive ship's hull, growing in intensity. The V'Kalorth battlecruiser began to list, secondary detonations tearing it apart from within. We did it. Rodriguez breathed, disbelief and joy warring in his voice. Commander, the V'Kalorth ship is breaking up. A cheer went up throughout the station, humans and Sci-Fi alike celebrating their unlikely victory. Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief before snapping back into command mode. Good work, everyone, but let's not pat ourselves on the back just yet. Rodriguez, get our shields back online. I want damage reports from all sections, and someone get me a secure line to Earth Command. They're going to want to hear about this. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Sarah found herself face to face with Xalthor. The Sci-Fi's skin was a riot of colors, expressing emotions Sarah could only begin to guess at. Commander Chen, Xalthor's mental voice was filled with a warmth that transcended species. You and your crew have saved not only your world, but ours as well. The Sci-Fi owe you a debt we can never fully repay. Sarah smiled, extending her hand in a very human gesture of friendship. To her surprise and delight, Xalthor reached out and grasped it with its own alien appendage. I'd say this makes us even for the shield technology you shared, Sarah replied. But more than that, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship between our peoples. As human and alien stood together, framed by the starfield visible through the station's viewport, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of hope for the future. They had faced an impossible threat and emerged victorious through cooperation and trust. The road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging. There would be cultural misunderstandings to navigate, diplomatic hurdles to overcome, and who knew what other threats lurking in the vast expanses of space. But in this moment, as an impromptu celebration broke out around them, Sarah knew one thing for certain. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, and they hadn't stumbled. They had soared, journeyed to the unknown. The days following the battle with the V'Kalorth were a whirlwind of activity aboard Orbital Station Epsilon. As repair crews worked tirelessly to patch up the damage, Commander Sarah Chen found herself thrust into the role of impromptu diplomat, mediating between the Sci-Fi and the hastily assembled team of human scientists and officials who had arrived from Earth. No, absolutely not. General Harrison's holographic image scowled from the communication console. We are not providing alien visitors with weapons-grade uranium, regardless of their story. The security risks are simply too great. Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose, feeling a headache coming on. With all due respect, General, the Scathari just helped us fend off an attack that could have devastated Earth. Don't you think that earns them some trust? Before the general could respond, Zolfo stepped forward, its opalescent skin shimmering with barely contained urgency. Perhaps I can offer a compromise. The Scathari leader's thoughts resonated in their minds. We do not ask for you to simply hand over the uranium. Instead, allow a joint team of Scathari and humans to retrieve it together. This way, you can maintain control of the material while still providing the aid we so desperately need. Sarah watched as the general's expression shifted from outright refusal to thoughtful consideration. A joint mission, you say? And where exactly would this mission be headed? Zolfo's multifaceted eyes seemed to glimmer with something akin to excitement. There is a remote mining outpost in your asteroid belt that our scans indicate contains a sufficient quantity of uranium. It would require a specialized team to extract and process the materials safely. After several more hours of tense negotiation, a plan was finally hammered out. A joint human-Scathari expedition would journey to the asteroid mining outpost aboard a modified Earth vessel, retrofitted with some of the Scathari's advanced technology. Commander Chen would lead the human contingent, whilst Zolfo would represent the Scathari interests. As Sarah oversaw the final preparations for their departure, she couldn't shake a sense of nervous anticipation. This mission represented more than just a material exchange. It was humanity's first true step into galactic cooperation. Pre-flight checks complete, Commander. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported as Sarah settled into the captain's chair of the newly christened Starship Harmony. We're ready for departure. Sarah nodded, her eyes sweeping over the bridge where humans and Scathari worked side by side at various stations. Take us out, nice and easy. Let's see what this hybrid ship can do. As the Harmony disengaged from Epsilon's docking clamps, Sarah felt a slight tremor run through the deck plates. The ship's engines, a fusion of human and Scathari technology, hummed to life with a sound unlike anything she'd heard before. Fascinating, Zolfo commented from the science station. The integration of our gravitic drive with your fusion reactors has resulted in efficiency far beyond my calculations. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. That's humans for you. We have a knack for making things work in unexpected ways. The journey to the asteroid belt was estimated to take several days, giving the crew ample time to adjust to their new working arrangements. As they settled into their routine, Sarah found herself constantly amazed by the cultural exchanges taking place. In the mess hall, she overheard a group of human engineers engaged in an animated discussion with their Scathari counterparts about the relative merits of various propulsion theories. In the recreation area, a Scathari was attempting to teach a human crewman the rules of a complex, three-dimensional game that seemed to involve holographic projections and telepathic strategy. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Cultural misunderstandings and moments of tension were inevitable. Sarah found herself called to mediate a heated argument in the science lab, where a human researcher had accidentally insulted a Scathari by measuring a sample without first performing what turned out to be a sacred ritual of respect for the material. I don't understand, the frustrated scientist complained. How was I supposed to know that each element has its own specific greeting? The Scathari scientist's skin had turned a deep, angry purple. It is basic knowledge. Even hatchlings known to honor the building blocks of the universe. Sarah held up her hands, stepping between them. Okay, let's take a step back. Dr. Patel, in human culture, we don't have these rituals for scientific work. And Zelnath, humans have different ways of showing respect for the scientific process. What if you taught Dr. Patel the proper greetings, and in return, he could explain human laboratory protocols? Slowly, the tension in the room dissipated as the two scientists began to exchange information, their earlier argument forgotten in the excitement of new knowledge. As Sarah left the lab, she found Zolfo waiting for her in the corridor. You handled that well, Commander, the Scathari leader observed. It cannot be easy, bridging the gap between our species. Sarah shrugged, a wry smile on her face. It's not so different from managing any diverse crew. The key is to remember that beneath our differences, we all share a common curiosity about the universe. Sulphur's skin rippled in what Sarah was learning to interpret as agreement. Indeed, it is that shared curiosity that gives me hope for our future cooperation. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden lurch of the ship, nearly throwing them off balance. The red alert klaxon began to blare as Rodriguez's voice came over the comm system. "Commander to the bridge. We've encountered some kind of spatial anomaly. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." Sarah and Zalthor exchanged a quick glance before racing to the bridge. As they burst through the doors, Sarah's eyes widened at the sight on the main view screen. Before them, space itself seemed to be folding and unfolding in impossible patterns. Colors that had no right existing outside of dreams swirled in mesmerizing eddies. At the center of it all was a pulsing, dark mass that seemed to devour light itself. "Report," Sarah barked, sliding into her command chair. Rodriguez's fingers flew over his console. The anomaly appeared out of nowhere, ma'am. It's generating massive gravitational fluctuations. We're being pulled in. Sulfur moved to the science station, its movements urgent. This phenomenon bears similarities to theoretical Sci-Fi models of space-time distortions. If my readings are correct, we may be looking at a natural wormhole. Sarah's mind raced with the implications. A wormhole could offer unprecedented opportunities for exploration, but it also posed immense dangers. Can we break free? "Negative," the helmsman reported, strain evident in his voice as he fought with the controls. "The gravitational pull is too strong. We're going in." Sarah gripped the arms of her chair, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "All hands, brace for impact. Divert all power to shields and structural integrity." As the Harmony was inexorably drawn into the swirling maw of the anomaly, Sarah caught Sulphur's eye. The Scathari's thoughts brushed against her mind, a mixture of fear and exhilaration that mirrored her own feelings. "Whatever lies on the other side, Commander," Sulphur communicated, "we face it together." Sarah nodded, a fierce determination settling over her. Human and alien, they had already overcome so much. Whatever this new challenge brought, she was confident they would find a way through it. The ship shuddered violently as it crossed the threshold of the anomaly. For a moment, reality seemed to stretch and distort around them. Sarah felt as if every atom of her body was being pulled apart and reassembled. Then, with a final wrenching lurch, they were through. As the view screen cleared, a collective gasp rose from the bridge crew. Before them stretched a vista of unimaginable beauty and terror. A binary star system, one sun a brilliant blue, the other a deep, angry red, dominated the sky. Planets unlike anything in Earth's records whirled in complex orbits, their surfaces shimmering with alien life and technology. And in the distance, barely visible but unmistakable, the sleek shapes of spacecraft moved purposefully through the void. Ships that were neither human nor Sci-Fi in design. As alerts began to sound, indicating that the unknown vessels had detected their arrival, Sarah straightened in her chair. They had sought to save two worlds and had stumbled upon an entirely new frontier of galactic civilization. "Well," she said, a hint of wry humor in her voice despite the gravity of the situation, "I'd say our mission parameters have just expanded significantly. Let's hope our new neighbors are in a welcoming mood." The Harmony hung in space, a tiny vessel on the edge of a vast, unknown cosmos. Whatever came next, Sarah knew that the true test of human and Sci-Fi cooperation was just beginning. The hostile planet. The bridge of the Harmony was a flurry of activity as the crew worked to assess their new situation. Commander Sarah Chen's eyes darted between the various readouts, trying to make sense of the alien star system they had unexpectedly entered. "Status report," she ordered, her voice calm despite the tension palpable in the air. Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke up first, his fingers dancing across his console. We've suffered minor damage from the wormhole transit, but all critical systems are operational. However, our long-range communications are down. We can't contact Earth or the Scathari homeworld. Xal-4, the Scathari leader, moved to the science station, its multifaceted eyes scanning the incoming data. Commander, I'm detecting a habitable planet in this system. It appears to be the source of the ships we observed. Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. It's from one of the alien vessels. Sarah straightened in her chair. This was it, humanity's first contact with a completely unknown species. On screen, she commanded. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. It appeared to be composed of swirling energy patterns, vaguely humanoid in shape, but constantly shifting and reforming. Unidentified vessel, the alien's voice resonated through the ship's speakers, somehow conveying both curiosity and wariness. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourselves and state your purpose. Sarah took a deep breath, then spoke clearly and confidently. I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Starship Harmony, representing an alliance between humans and Scathari. We arrived here by accident through a spatial anomaly. We come in peace and seek assistance in returning to our own space. There was a long pause as the energy being seemed to confer with others off-screen. Finally, it turned its attention back to the Harmony. Your arrival is unexpected. You will be escorted to our primary world for further evaluation. Any deviation from the designated flight path will be considered a hostile act. As the transmission cut off, Sarah exchanged glances with Xal-4. The Scathari skin had taken on a pale, concerned hue. Commander, Xal-4 communicated telepathically. I sense great power from these beings, but also great caution. We must proceed carefully. Sarah nodded in agreement. Helm, follow their lead. All hands, remain at alert status. We're not out of the woods yet. The Harmony, flanked by two sleek, energy-based ships, descended through the atmosphere of the alien world. As they broke through the cloud cover, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The planet's surface was a riot of color and impossible geometries. Structures that seemed to defy physics rose into the sky, while the ground itself pulsed with an inner light. It's beautiful, Rodriguez murmured, voicing the thought on everyone's mind. Their wonder was short-lived, however. As they touched down on a designated landing pad, alarms once again blared through the ship. Commander, the environmental officer called out, panic evident in her voice. The atmosphere, it's highly corrosive to both human and Scathari physiology. Our shields are the only thing protecting us right now. Sarah's mind raced. They couldn't stay in the ship indefinitely, but stepping outside meant certain death. She turned to Xal-4, seeing her own concern mirrored in the alien's eyes. Ideas, she asked, opening the floor to both her human and Scathari crew members. For a moment, silence reigned on the bridge. Then, a young human ensign spoke up hesitantly. What if we combined our technologies, the Scathari personal shields and our environmental suits? Xal-4's skin rippled with excitement. Yes, we could modulate the shield frequency to repel the corrosive elements while allowing breathable air to permeate. Sarah nodded, a smile breaking through her tense expression. Excellent thinking, Ensign. Get on it, both of you. We need a working prototype ASAP. As the human and Scathari scientists rushed to collaborate on the hybrid suit, Sarah turned her attention back to the alien world outside. The energy beings had assembled near their ship, clearly waiting for the newcomers to emerge. Hours passed in a frenzy of activity. Finally, the chief engineer approached Sarah with what looked like a standard Earth environmental suit, but with a faintly shimmering field surrounding it. It's ready for testing, Commander, he reported. But I have to warn you, it's not without risk. We haven't had time for thorough safety checks. Sarah stood, her decision already made. I understand. I'll test it myself. Despite protest from her crew, Sarah donned the experimental suit. As she prepared to step out of the airlock, she felt a hand on her shoulder. Turning, she saw Xalfor, also suited up in his Kthari version of the hybrid technology. "We face this together, Commander," the alien thought spoke, its mental voice firm with resolve. Side by side, human and Scathari stepped out onto the alien world. For a heart-stopping moment, Sarah waited for the searing pain of the corrosive atmosphere, but it never came. The hybrid shields held, creating a safe bubble around them. As they approached the waiting energy beings, Sarah couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. In mere hours, humans and Scathari had overcome a challenge that should have been insurmountable, through cooperation and ingenuity. The lead energy being shifted, its form coalescing into a more solid state. Impressive, it communicated, the thought bypassing their ears and forming directly in their minds. "You've adapted to our world with remarkable speed." Sarah inclined her head respectfully. "Thank you. Our peoples value problem-solving and cooperation. We hope this demonstration shows our peaceful intentions and our potential as allies rather than threats." The energy beings seemed to consider this. "Perhaps we judged too hastily. Come, let us discuss your situation in more comfortable surroundings." As they were led towards one of the impossible structures, Sarah felt a mix of trepidation and excitement. They had overcome their first hurdle, but she knew many more challenges lay ahead. The fate of not just their mission, but potentially the future relations between their species and this new advanced civilization hung in the balance. Yet, as she glanced at Xalfor walking beside her and thought of the human and Scathari crew working together on the harmony, Sarah felt a surge of optimism. Whatever trials this alien world had in store for them, they would face them united, and in that unity, she realized, lay their greatest strength. Battle against the odds. As Commander Sarah Chen and Xalfor followed their energy-being hosts into one of the towering structures, the alien world around them seemed to pulse with an otherworldly life. The interior of the building was just as mind-bending as its exterior, with corridors that seemed to fold in on themselves and rooms that defied traditional concepts of space. Their guide, who had introduced itself as Zix, led them to what appeared to be a central chamber. Here, a council of energy beings awaited, their forms shimmering with barely contained power. "Welcome, travelers," the apparent leader of the council projected into their minds. "We are the Ethereals. Your arrival through the anomaly has caused quite a stir in our society. It has been millennia since we last encountered new species." Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady despite the awe-inspiring presence of the Ethereals. "We appreciate your hospitality. As we explained, our arrival was accidental. We seek only to return to our own space and continue our original mission." The ethereal leader's form flickered, a gesture Sarah interpreted as curiosity. "And what mission is that?" Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. One of the ethereal council members shifted rapidly, its energy patterns conveying urgent information to its peers. "Impossible," the leader exclaimed, its mental voice tinged with shock. "The Kalorth have followed you here." Sarah and Xalfor exchanged alarmed glances. "But how?" Xalfor projected. "The wormhole closed behind us." The chamber erupted into a flurry of activity as view screens materialized, showing a massive Kalorth fleet emerging from a newly formed spatial rift. They must have analyzed the wormhole's energy signature and found a way to reopen it, Sarah realized aloud. "We've inadvertently led them to your doorstep." The ethereal leader turned to them, its form pulsing with what Sarah sensed was a mixture of anger and fear. "You have brought war to our peaceful system. We have not faced conflict in thousands of years. Our defenses are ill-prepared for such an assault." Sarah's mind raced. They were responsible for this threat, but they might also be the key to stopping it. "Let us help," she offered. "We've faced the Kalorth before. With our combined knowledge and your advanced technology, we stand a chance of repelling them." There was a tense moment of silence as the ethereals communicated among themselves. Finally, the leader addressed them again. "We have little choice. What do you propose?" Over the next few hours, the chamber transformed into a war room. Sarah, Zalthor, and the ethereal strategists worked feverishly to formulate a defense plan. The Harmony's crew was brought in, and soon humans, Scathari, and ethereals were working side by side, combining their unique perspectives and technologies. The Philorth's main advantage is their raw firepower, Sarah explained, pointing to a holographic display of the enemy fleet. But they're overconfident. They don't expect resistance from what they perceive as inferior species. Zalthor's skin rippled with excitement as an idea formed. What if we use that arrogance against them? The ethereal's energy-based technology could be modified to create illusory fleet formations, confusing their targeting systems. One of the ethereal scientists chimed in, its form brightening. "Yes, and we could use our planetary defense grid to amplify the power of your ship's weapons. A synchronized attack could penetrate their shields." As the plan took shape, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. 3 vastly different species working together to face a common threat. It was everything she had hoped for when humanity first looked to the stars. The moment of truth arrived all too soon. The V'Kalorth fleet entered the system, their massive ships darkening the sky. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Harmony, which now pulsed with ethereal energy enhancements. Zalthor manned the science station, coordinating with the ethereal defense grid. "All ships, assume attack formation," Sarah commanded, her voice carrying across the human Scathari ethereal combined fleet. "Remember the plan. Let's show these Kalorth what happens when they mess with a united galaxy." The battle that followed was unlike anything Sarah had ever experienced. Ethereal illusions danced across space, confusing the Kalorth targeting systems. The Harmony, infused with ethereal energy, darted between enemy ships with impossible agility. Scathari tactical genius guided their attack patterns, exploiting weaknesses the Kalorth didn't even know they had. But the enemy was formidable. Kalorth weapons fire tore through their defenses, destroying several ships. The planetary shield flickered dangerously as it absorbed hit after hit. Shield integrity at 20%. Rodriguez shouted over the chaos of the bridge. "We can't take much more of this." Sarah gritted her teeth, her mind working overtime. They needed something unexpected, something the Kalorth couldn't possibly prepare for. Then it hit her. "Zalthor, the wormhole generator," she called out. "Can we recreate the anomaly that brought us here?" These Cathari's eyes widened as it grasped her plan. "Yes, but, Commander, the risk is enormous. We could tear apart the fabric of space-time itself." Sarah's jaw set with determination. "It's a risk we have to take. Coordinate with the ethereals. Let's give the Kalorth a taste of their own medicine." What followed was a dangerous dance of science and desperation. The Harmony, backed by the full power of the ethereal defense grid, maneuvered into position. Zalthor and the ethereal scientists worked feverishly, channeling unimaginable energies. Just as the Kalorth fleet closed in for the killing blow, space itself seemed to rupture. A massive wormhole, far larger than the one that had brought them to this system, yawned open in the heart of the enemy formation. The Kalorth, caught completely off guard, were pulled inexorably towards the swirling vortex. Ships collided, their formations shattered. In mere minutes, the mighty fleet was reduced to scattered, disorganized pockets of resistance. "Now," Sarah shouted, "all ships, concentrate fire on the remaining targets." The combined fleet surged forward, their weapons blazing. One by one, the remaining Kalorth ships fell to their coordinated assault. As the last enemy vessel exploded in a brilliant fireball, a cheer went up across the comm channels. Human, Scathari, and ethereal voices joined together in celebration. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Sarah slumped in her chair, exhaustion washing over her. She felt a gentle touch on her shoulder and looked up to see Zalthor, its skin shimmering with a kaleidoscope of colors she now recognized as joy and pride. "We did it, Commander," the Scathari thought spoke. "Against all odds, we prevailed." Sarah smiled, her eyes sweeping across the bridge where humans and aliens worked side by side. "We did it together," she corrected. "All of us." As the ethereal leader's image appeared on the view screen, its energy form radiating with newfound respect, Sarah knew that this victory was more than just a military triumph. It was proof that cooperation between different species wasn't just possible, it was the key to overcoming the greatest challenges the universe could throw at them. The battle was over, but Sarah had a feeling their greatest adventures were just beginning. A new understanding. The days following the decisive battle against the Kaloth were a whirlwind of activity. As a combined fleet of humans, Scathari and Ethereals worked to clear the debris of war from the system, Commander Sarah Chen found herself at the center of a diplomatic whirlwind. The great hall of the Ethereal Central Complex buzzed with energy, both literal and figurative, as representatives from all three species gathered. Sarah stood beside Zalthor, both still wearing their hybrid environmental suits, facing the assembled Ethereal Council. The Ethereal leader, its form shimmering with a newfound vibrancy, addressed the gathering. "Today marks a historic moment for our civilization. For millennia, we isolated ourselves, believing that our advanced state of being placed us above the concerns of the physical realm. We were wrong." A ripple of surprise passed through the assembled Ethereals. Sarah exchanged a glance with Zalthor, sensing the magnitude of this admission. The leader continued, "The bravery, ingenuity, and spirit of cooperation demonstrated by the humans and Scathari have opened our eyes. We see now that true strength lies not in isolation, but in unity." Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. "On behalf of humanity, I thank you for your trust and your willingness to stand with us against the Kaloth threat. This victory belongs to all of us." Zalthor's mental voice joined hers, resonating with warmth. The Scathari echo this sentiment. "Together, we have achieved what none of us could have done alone." As the formal speeches concluded, the gathering transformed into a more relaxed cultural exchange. Sarah found herself surrounded by curious Ethereals, peppered with questions about Earth and human society. Is it true that humans have no natural telepathic abilities? One young Ethereal inquired, its form flickering with fascination. Sarah smiled. "That's right. We communicate primarily through verbal and non-verbal physical cues." The Ethereal's energy patterns swirled in what Sarah had come to recognize as amazement. How wonderfully inefficient. It must lead to so many delightful misunderstandings. Nearby, Zalthor was engaged in an animated discussion with a group of Ethereal scientists, their combined mental energies creating shimmering patterns in the air as they exchanged complex scientific theories. As the celebrations continued, Sarah found a quiet moment to confer with Zalthor and the Ethereal leader. "While this alliance is cause for celebration," Sarah began, "we still face significant challenges. The Kaloth threat may be temporarily neutralized, but they will likely regroup, and we still need to find a way back to our own space." The Ethereal leader's form pulsed with determination. "We have given this much thought, Commander. Our scientists believe they can stabilize the wormhole that brought you here, creating a permanent passage between our realms." Zalthor's skin rippled with excitement. Such a link would not only allow us to return home, but could serve as the foundation for ongoing cooperation and cultural exchange. Sarah nodded, her mind racing with the possibilities. It could also serve as an early warning system against future Kaloth incursions. A multi-species defense network spanning multiple regions of space. As they discussed the logistics of this ambitious plan, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. What had started as a simple resource-gathering mission had evolved into first contact with a new advanced civilization and the formation of an interstellar alliance. Hours later, as the formal celebrations wound down, Sarah found herself on a balcony overlooking the alien cityscape. The binary suns were setting, painting the sky in hues of purple and green that took her breath away. She felt a presence beside her and turned to see Zalfor, its skin reflecting the ethereal light of dusk. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Sarah mused. Zalfor's mental voice was tinged with awe. "Indeed, I find myself reflecting on the vastness of the universe and how small our individual concerns seem in comparison." Sarah nodded, understanding the sentiment all too well. And yet, it's those individual concerns, when joined together, that allowed us to face that vastness and prevail. They stood in companionable silence for a moment before Zalfor spoke again. "You know, Commander, when we first met on your space station, I never imagined we would end up here. Humans are not what I expected." Sarah chuckled. "Oh, and what did you expect?" "Based on our initial scans of your civilization, we thought you might be primitive, possibly even dangerous," Zalfor admitted. "But you've proven to be adaptable, creative, and possessed of a spirit that I've come to admire greatly." "High praise," Sarah replied with a smile. "I could say the same about this Cathari. Your scientific knowledge and tactical insights were crucial to our success." That conversation was interrupted by the arrival of an ethereal messenger. "Commander Zalfor, your presence is requested in the science chamber. The wormhole stabilization process is ready to begin." As they made their way through the twisting corridors of the ethereal complex, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. They were on the cusp of opening a permanent doorway between civilizations, a step that would irrevocably change the course of history for all their peoples. The science chamber was a hive of activity. Ethereal energy beings flowed around complex machinery, their forms intertwining with beams of light and streams of data. At the center of it all stood the Harmony, its hull now adorned with glowing ethereal enhancements. The lead ethereal scientist approached them, its form buzzing with barely contained excitement. "We are ready to initiate the stabilization sequence. Commander, we'll need the Harmony to act as an anchor point on your end of the wormhole." Sarah nodded, turning to her crew. "You heard them, people. Let's make history." What followed was a dizzying display of advanced physics that pushed the boundaries of Sarah's understanding. The Harmony, guided by the combined expertise of human, Scathari, and ethereal scientists, maneuvered into position at the mouth of the fluctuating wormhole. Energy beams lanced out from the ethereal planetary defense grid, enveloping the ship and the spatial anomaly in a cocoon of power. The wormhole writhed and pulsed, fighting against the attempt to tame it. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if the forces at play might tear the Harmony apart. Alarms blared across the ship as systems were pushed to their limits. But then, almost anticlimactically, everything settled. The wormhole's chaotic energies smoothed out, forming a stable, shimmering portal in space. A cheer went up from the assembled scientists and crew. They had done it. A permanent bridge between their civilizations had been established. As the initial excitement died down, Sarah found herself once again in conference with Zalfor and the ethereal leader. "This is only the beginning," the ethereal projected, its form glowing with newfound purpose. "We have much to learn from each other, and together we can explore realms of science and culture beyond our individual imagining." Zalfor's mental voice resonated with agreement. "Indeed, the Scathari are eager to share our knowledge and, in turn, learn from both humans and ethereals." Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of this historic moment. Earth will be thrilled at the prospect of peaceful contact with not one, but two advanced civilizations, though I imagine there will be some bureaucratic hurdles to overcome. The ethereal leader's form rippled with what Sarah had come to recognize as amusement. "Ah yes, we have observed that humans have a particular talent for creating complex systems of governance. Perhaps we can learn from that as well." As they discussed the next steps, establishing formal diplomatic channels, setting up cultural exchange programs, and coordinating joint scientific ventures, Sarah felt a profound sense of hope for the future. They had faced unimaginable challenges, overcome ancient prejudices, and forged bonds of friendship across the gulf of interstellar space. Whatever the universe had in store for them next, they would face it together. As the binary suns rose on a new day, bathing the alien world in its otherworldly light, Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Harmony, ready to guide her ship back through the wormhole. Earth needed to be informed of all that had transpired, and she was eager to share the incredible journey they had experienced. But as she gave the order to proceed, Sarah knew that this was not an ending, but a beginning. The stars had never seemed so bright, the possibilities never so limitless. Humanity had taken its first real steps into a larger, more complex, and infinitely more wondrous galaxy, and Sarah Chen, along with her diverse crew of humans, Scathari, and their new ethereal allies, would be at the forefront of this grand adventure. As the Harmony slipped into the shimmering portal, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of 3 civilizations, Sarah couldn't help but smile. The future, with all its challenges and marvels, awaited.